Hey there, all my Rotation 411 astrology subscribers. So as you know, I like to give it a minute because sometimes in the playback, the beginning part cuts off. So with that being said, this started on February 19th, the North Node being conjunct Chiron, and particularly it was, I believe it was starting at 16 degrees. Or that's what I was reading, but right now I looked today to see if they are indeed still conjunct, and we have the North Node at 17 degrees and 48 minutes Aries, and Chiron at 17 degrees and 8 minutes Aries. So this is a very tight conjunction. They're at the exact same degree. And I do believe this will be going on through April. The North Node in Aries is going on at least through the summer. It's a year long. It happens every 18 years, and Chiron happens every 50 years that he returns to the same spot. So, for each individual, this means that around your 50th birthday is when you have your Chiron return. So we're going to get into today, what is the North Node and what is Chiron. And, I've been reading articles and there's lots of other videos on it, but for those of you that follow me, gotta get a little more situated here. I'm just going to give you sort of my breakdown of this, and then we'll come to whatever conclusions that I come to. I'm an Aries, so I'm very impulsive, so it'll be in the moment. Now, with that being said, while we're just sort of waiting for some of you to come in here, I usually schedule it and then I get on a little after, just to give more people time. But it doesn't look like any of you are in here, but sometimes my viewer count isn't quite on because I'll think like all of you left and then you'll be commenting, no, I'm still here. So anyways, with that being said, I'm just going to kind of go on, tell you a little bit about divinetimingdatabase.org very quickly. And, if you're watching this in the playback, you can just skip ahead if you already know about it. But if you've been watching the recent videos, or if you watch any of the previous videos, you may have heard about it. But in the recent videos, I've let you know that I was actually finally able to collaborate with a programmer, and we were able to make the matching software to the exact criteria that I match my clients on. So, if I work for several different psychic platforms as an astrologist and tarot reader. And when my clients come to me, the first thing I do is I get the birthdays and I look into the astrology. So a lot of people say, well, that no astrology. Well, you need the birth time for that. Well, what I'm particularly looking at is the aspects of the planets. And so, yes, the birth time is nice to know the house system and to know, the rising sign, and it definitely gives us a lot more information. But in order for me to know whether a couple is going to last, I actually only need the birthdays. I do like the places to define the moons, because the moon does change every 2 to 3 days. So a lot of you, the moon changed signs on the day that you were born. Every like third person or third birthday. So what that'd be like about approximately 100 birthdays a year out of 365. The moon changed that day, so we need the time usually to narrow it down, or we can use the place often. With that being said, that was kind of just a rant, but basically we made it so that I worked with this programmer who's created the dual cosmodine synastry, which he basically takes all the aspects kind of the way that all astrologists know them, and he scores them. So because different aspects can overpower other aspects, and so he scores them in a way where he feels like it's the cosmodine, like the individual birth chart, which is really cool. If you want to check out, I did it on Britney Spears to show you guys how to do it. And I can link that below later on. So you can watch that video if you want to know how to get your own cosmodine score. But he basically takes yours and theirs and puts them together and then rates the aspects on a score. And it's like a power harmony score. And it's really interesting. And but as far as the conclusions I come to on whether a couple, a hard yes or no, are you guys going to make it, are you meant to be? I don't feel that it is necessarily conclusive. But when it comes to me, my theory, which is the moons have to be in the same polarity, which I've broken it down before, so some of you might want to skip ahead. It's, we have 4 elements in astrology: air, earth, water, fire. So we have 2 polarities because all air and earth are feminine, and all fire and air are masculine. And so, you can be a feminine sign like Capricorn and be with an Aries, which is a masculine sign. And that's actually a square because they're both cardinal, which is a little advanced for some of you, and still have a great lifelong relationship, because it doesn't come to the sun signs, it's to the moon signs. In Vedic astrology, the moons are very important. Most astrologists in Western and Vedic agree that, having any harmonious planet, like a sun moon conjunction, if your sun is in Aries and you meet a moon in Aries, you're going to click because there's just a lot in common there. But you might have a good 4 or 5 year long relationship, but at the end of the day, it comes down to how are those moons interacting with each other. Because I see Venus conjunct moon or trine moon in many great marriages, but those marriages don't always last, okay? And that's because it's moon to moon is really the most important, and it's going to overpower even Venus to moon, which is a beautiful aspect to have. So with that being said, we were able to actually create the script, so basically it's a software online where you plug in your birthday, and now in the database it will auto check you. So for those of you who have submitted to divinetimingdatabase already, please do email divinetimingdatabase@gmail.com. And I write this all below so you can spell it out if you have any trouble with that. I know for me, even, I'm always going into these sites to check them, to test them, and I even type it in wrong sometimes and it won't come up. And I've thought about how could I simplify the name, but it is what it is. It's divine timing. So, and it's a database. So, I do we abbreviate a lot on the site DTDB, but I think that domain was taken, like dtdb.com, and even then people might be like, wait, what was it again? DBTT, So, anyways, so now if you've already submitted to divinetimingdatabase.org, I do encourage you to email divinetimingdatabase@gmail.com to get your temporary password, because you've already been entered into the auto search. But for those of you that are, if say you go in there today and submit, it will walk you through and you can automatically search and see if you already have a match in there. So you don't have to, before you would have to wait, for us to run it manually. And I would literally have to go in and retype your birthday into an Excel sheet, retype your birthday into the other database, and then sit there and look, okay, who's got moons compatible. And now it's just literally you go in there and it automatically does it. So as soon as you and I'm already freaking 10 minutes in, so I'll have to do like a timestamp because I really want to get into the North Node and Chiron, and I only have so much time because I got to get back to clients today. But now if you go in there right now and you sign up in the form, then it'll walk you through, you register, or once you've signed up on the form, and I'm going to make a video after this today doing it on the computer live stream. So, if you are interested in this and you want to kind of see how it's done, a walkthrough visual. I was just waiting for the computer software to update. I was going to hop on and do it, and then it's like, no, it needs to update, and it's been taking like an hour, but it's almost done. So in about an hour or a little after I get off this video, I'll get on and you'll actually be able to see the computer and I'll walk you through it. But basically, you just sign up with the form, because that way we have a separate copy just in case anything ever happens. It's a hard copy. And then it'll walk you through. You'll go to the auto search, so you'll register again, but then you put in your birthday details one more time, and within 2 to 3 minutes you refresh the page and it will show you if you already have a match in there. So within like 5 minutes you can see if you have a match in the database, rather than waiting for us to plug everyone in. And the cool thing is, so once you sign up in the form, you'll automatically have that sign in for the chat, and then you register on the auto, and you can see right away if you have a match. And if you have a match, you can literally go into the chat, log in, and email and write them a message, and it'll email them. So say you sign up today and your divine counterpart or your perfect match signs up tomorrow, they're going to be wanting to hit you up. So you'll know, like, even if you don't have a match in there today when you sign up, if somebody signs up this week, they'll know that you're their match, and that will flag and you will automatically be notified. So it's come just in the past few weeks, it has come a long way from you signing up to the database and having to wait an indefinite amount of time to now you sign up and you know immediately if there's a match already in there. And there's a lot of people in there already, so you could have a match in there already. So anyways, with that being said, it's really cool because yeah, you guys don't have to wait on me or my staff to run all these charts. You can literally just see it automatically. It's automated now. So with that being said, let's get into what is the North Node in Chiron. You know, I only have so much time today. Also, I know some of you are waiting on the big 144 series. I get the most comments about that and requests. If you want me to get to those faster, you know, donations to the channel really do help so that I can divert my time and energy to those videos because they do take up a chunk of time. But that's what the channel was started for. So I really do want to get back to those because they are really fun. And I've told you guys, like sometimes I'm a little more tapped into it as well. But I am probably going to jump around a little more because we started with Aries moons and we got through Libra sun, Aries moon. And now we need to get to, you know, Pisces moons. So I might jump around a little more, might go like Aries sun, Taurus moon through Pisces moon and something like that. Because I did realize on the computer, on the playlist, I can organize it because I wanted it to be organized, but now I realize I can go in there and organize it. So anyways, what is Chiron? Chiron is an asteroid or a centaur in Greek mythology. You know, he's, I think he's sort of like the Sagittarius guy. He's half horse, half man. Now, you know, we have different understandings and depths to these things. So some of you are going to know more about this than others, and you might, oh, you know, and I was reading different articles on it, but I'm just going to break it down for you guys, you know, what I know about it and my definitions of it quickly, because again, you can look up a ton of other videos of astrologists talking about this right now because it's happening currently. But basically Chiron transits through every 50 years through back to where he was. So he's been in Aries for since 2018, and he'll be there for another year or two. I should have looked it up, but I know as an Aries myself, I've been keeping an eye on it. So I know he's there for another year or two. Chiron is the wounded warrior. And he's also the healer. So I was just reading an article, and it was, I believe, on medium.com, and it was saying, you know, a lot of times we think like the healer comes from somebody healing themselves from the wounding and then going in and being able to heal others. But this article is basically stating, and I was going to like post it and stuff. I didn't love all the political stuff in it. Because I try to stay unbiased that way, but there was some pretty, you know, diplomatic points in there. But it was saying, you know, that Chiron was actually a healer. You know, he was like half God, half human before he got his wound. And he was wounded by Hercules, which most of you have heard of Hercules. And he had a mortal life because he was like half God or centaur or whatever. And but this wound was, he could still feel the wound. So even though he had a mortal life, he was half human and he could feel the pain of the wound. So he gave up and forfeited a mortal life to die because of the wound. But the thing is it was friendly fire. Hercules was on his side. They were fighting on the same team. And this is kind of the irony of life sometimes, like those that want to help us the most, you know, even like family and friends, sometimes it's to our own detriment, right? Like say if somebody has an addiction and you know, someone's always there to help them, but they're actually enabling their addiction, you know, something like that. Or even like if you really love someone, but you know, your astrology is not compatible, so you keep trying to make the relationship work, but it's causing more grief than good, you know, like say you have Mars opposition Uranus or something, and you know, Mars is our behavior, and so the way that you behave activates that person's Uranus. It makes them unpredictable when normally they're a very centered, stable, grounded person. So even though, you know, you might have all these great aspects and love to be together, you might be activating that person's instability and unpredictability just by your own behavior, which, you know, Uranus is an outer planet. So this is where that can get that friendly fire of Chiron. You know, sometimes us helping someone can actually hurt them or our influence in their life. Like, you know, I always say everybody is a transit to you. So, you know, the transits in the sky affect your birth chart, and that's how you're going to be influenced by the celestial bodies. Well, same with a person, you know, and I was going to make a video, I was thinking recently on like why you shouldn't date around. And you know, there's a lot of schools of thought on that, like religious, psychology, all of that. You know, our nervous systems get tied up with people. You know, it's just such a common, and I'm to each their own. Like if you want to date around or whatever your preferences are, I don't care. You know, I help clients of all different backgrounds and I don't judge them. You know, I live by my own morals and standards, and I try to adhere to those for my own reasons, but you know, why you shouldn't date around according to astrology is because you could have somebody that you have this beautiful harmonious chart with. And I tell you guys often that sometimes when those synastry charts are too good and there aren't enough challenges or friction, that people can tend to overlook those people, you know, and not even like a friend zone, even though that's consummate love, which is something I've been harping on a lot lately, which I'm not going to go too far off on right now. You know, people are so afraid of the friend zone. A lot of my clients are like, you know, she put me in the friend zone, but it's like, consummate love is that triangle in psychology, and you have to have physical passion, which a lot of couples that have been together more than, you know, 10 years and have kids, they think that that goes out the window, and the culture is that, you know, you don't need that in a relationship. Well, yes, you do. Why do you think people leave and people cheat? It's because the physical aspect is a very important foundation. I'm losing you guys here. I saw a few of you come in. But then the intimacy, like that privacy, that person's your confidant and knows your wounds, like Chiron, right? That's the intimacy part of the triangle, which a lot of people are emotionally neglected in relationships when they don't have moon compatibility and stuff, because they don't know how to connect in that intimate space, right? And then a lot of people are wounded or avoidance. You know, attachment styles can change, but you know, if you've had a lot of rocky relationships or a rough childhood or parental relationships, you might lean towards anxious or avoidant attachment styles. So that can affect that intimacy part of the triangle, okay? But then there's the friendship part. And people are always so afraid of being friend zoned. And I've seen it with lots of men when it comes to how they pursue me or how they're pursuing others, or clients, that male clients that come to me. It's especially with the men, they're just so afraid of the friend zone, because you'll see with an aspect like Saturn square Venus, especially when the man is Saturn. Because I feel like when the woman is Saturn, let's say that she tends to be restrictive on his finances, or he gives everything to her, and she's kind of cold, because Saturn can be kind of cold, and Saturn's about status. So a woman's Saturn square a man's Venus, right? Venus is money and beauty. You know, he'll want to give and give and give to her, and she's just real restrictive and will drain him, and it's not very productive over time. You really divorce aspects, Saturn square Venus can be for the long haul. So it can be, you know, where that man will give to the household, but in a divorce, that Saturn person can really drain that Venus person, sort of like a Pluto square Saturn thing. Now, with that being said, when the man is Saturn and the woman is Venus, it can also be sort of a financial abuse aspect, where the Saturn person is, you know, controlling the Venus, which is the female's, you know, finances and resources and things. But also I find that aspect to be in friend zoned type of relationships, where Venus will friend zone Saturn or use Saturn for for a financial benefit, even though Saturn will be restrictive and it's uncomfortable, but Saturn gives security to Venus in the square. So it can be for the long haul. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, when it comes to the friend zone, we're afraid of Saturn square Venus, especially if the male is Saturn. But the thing is, because the Venus can feel restricted, or because Venus can use Saturn. But when it comes to, so kind of going back to Chiron, the friend zone, I don't even know how I got off on Saturn square Venus, you guys. But basically, Chiron is this wounded warrior. So if somebody's been through like a Saturn square Venus type of situation, where there was sort of like financial abuse or financial restrictiveness in a relationship, or like a real heavy energy, that might be their wound, you know? And so then with Chiron getting activated in Aries for the collective, whether you have Aries placements or not, this is about looking out for yourself, setting your own boundaries. You know, Aries is on the spectrum of Libra. Libra is all about the others, having no boundaries, being a people pleaser. Now, I don't think all Libras are people pleasers. Libra can be just as bold as Aries can, very outspoken and air sign, you know, but also can be very indecisive and go with the whims of others and lack identity. So it also depends on, you know, I hope you guys can hear me, what else is going on in the Libra person's chart, because the sun is exalted in Aries and the sun is at detriment in Libra. So anybody with a Libra sun, it's really going to depend on their other placements and the others in their chart, you know, because it is a cardinal sign that's forward moving. So, you know, if an Aries gets their mind on something, nobody better get in their way. But if Libra gets their mind on something, same thing. They can be just as diligent and straightforward, cardinal, blazing like an Aries, but the others can kind of tend to influence them more. Or when they get tripped up on others, they can get more frustrated. So the sun being at detriment in Libra, you're more apt, if you're a sun in Libra, to to lose your identity in others and things. So Chiron being in Aries, which I know I'm kind of going from the sun placement to Chiron, but you know, the sun's exalted in Aries, it's all about independence and autonomy, which is a word I used the other day. So I've been going through these themes in my own life because I'm a Libra ascendant with the Aries North Node and an Aries Sun. Okay, so I really know these themes of Chiron and the North Node being in Aries, right? Because my North Node is in Aries, I'm having my North Node return. So I'm not trying to talk too much about myself here, but of course we're talking about Aries, which rules the self, right? So Chiron is the wounded warrior in Aries for the next few years. He's been there. So Aries have been going through it. And I remember in like 2013, my good friend who taught me the astrology to tarot, she said like Aries are going to be having a rough few years the next few years. Her daughter's in Aries as well. And I didn't know exactly what she meant at the time, but I think she was referring to Chiron going into Aries, even though it was a couple years before. So with that being said, you know, this wound is about identity and about self and about sticking up for your boundaries and doing it to the point where it can offend the others, which is the opposite, which is Libra, right? Now for the North Node in Aries, you know, the North Node is expansion. It's our life path. It's our destiny. And this is for the collective. Everybody in the world has this North Node going through Aries transit somewhere in your birth chart. So if it's happening in your first house, even if you have no Aries in your chart, well, you probably have an Aries ascendant, but let's say Aries is intercepted in your first house. So you don't have any really, let's say your cosmodines, you have no power in Aries, you're still feeling this North Node going through Aries transit, which is forcing you to forge your own identity, to forsake the others, not for the sake of partnership, which would be like Libra, forsaking all others outside the partnership. No, you have to forsake all others outside of yourself, including partnerships, because that's the opposite, Libra. But in doing so, and this is the tricky part about the Libra Aries axis, the self versus the others. In forsaking all others for yourself, anybody that's in your vicinity, a partner, a child, a loved one, is going to benefit, because the more that you know, I actually learned this from my Pisces grandma, and I don't know if I think she did have a planet in Aries, you know, because usually the personal planets are close to the sun, and my grandfather was in Aries. I'm pretty sure she did have Venus or Mars in Aries. I've looked, but I learned this from her. You know, she was very giving. She was a Pisces. Pisces is unconditional love and very generous, because, you know, as Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus is money and resources and material things and relationships. So Pisces is one of the most generous signs, but not without boundaries, right? Because they're evolved. They've been through all 12 signs. So they have learned boundaries, unlike Libra, who's halfway through, who's going from the private sector into the public sector. So, you know, you've been cultivated through your childhood. You know, Aries starts as the infant. You get to the 7th house of Libra. Now you're being pushed out into the world. Okay. That's about, let's just say it's like around, I don't know what the exact age correlation is for Libra off the top of my head. Because I know like Aries is the baby, Taurus is the infant. I believe Gemini is like children, but Leo rules the house of children. So, you know, by the time you get to the 7th house, you're getting pushed into the public sector, and now you're really having to deal with the others. So I'm going to, just for time's sake, akin it to, you know, when you're 18 and you're pushed out into adulthood. Although I really have to think about, you know, because yeah, 8th house is procreation. That's when you start making your own children. So yeah, maybe like 100 years ago would be a little younger. I don't, you know, like people got married and had kids even before 18, 100 years ago, right? Because the lifespan wasn't as long. But let's just say 7th house, you're getting pushed out into the public. Now you're dealing with the others. So with that being said, the North Node in Aries is just, oh yeah, okay, so my Pisces grandma, you know, one day I realized about her, you know, she gives and gives and gives to everybody. She's the most generous lady, even her friends, like she had a huge group of friends and she's always dressed to the nines. So even doing that, you know, maybe she was doing it for herself, but she wanted to look presentable to everyone. And one day I realized she could just get really cranky sometimes and just, you know, really need her own space. And it was just such a contrast. You know, Pisces water signs can tend to be on the moodier spectrum, although all signs can be moody. So, you know, no offense to water signs out there. One day I realized, oh, the reason that she's able to be so generous to everyone and so giving and just like such an attentive grandmother and have all this big friend circle and be involved in all these different parts of her community. Granted, I kept saying in one of the videos I did with them, that she had a Gemini moon, which is community. She actually had a Libra moon, so very social creature, right? I realized that the reason she's able to give to all the others is because she takes care of herself first. And when she's depleted and her battery was dead, you know, she didn't have any patience or time for anyone. It was like, she's taking a nap, everybody leave her alone. You know, now I'm a kid, this is like an adult figure in my life, so, you know, that's the way I perceived it. But it was towards the end of her life that I realized that the reason she was able to be so giving and generous was because when it was time for her to take care of herself, there was nobody could bother her, you know, and again, a very different contrast to her normal personality that's very social. So with that being said, North Node in Aries is very much about, you know, because the South Node is going through Libra right now. So more so than with Chiron, the North Node, so Chiron's just going through, right, every 50 years, all the way around. There's no polar opposite. Yes, of course, it's going to affect you if you have planets in Libra or in the opposite sign of whatever it's transiting, because it's going to create an opposition. But if you don't have any planets in Libra, Chiron is not going to really be doing much to you in Libra. It's whatever you've got going on in Aries, wherever Aries is in your chart, whether you have planets in it or not, whatever house Aries is in for you. But with the North Node, it doesn't matter what you have in Libra. The South Node is in Libra. So if your North Node, if the North Node in Aries, if you're, let me think of it, 6th house, that's a good, solid, tangible house. If your 6th house is in Aries, the North Node is transiting through there. So whether you have any planets in there or not, you're going to be feeling the North Node going through your 6th house. At the same time, you're going to be feeling the South Node going through your 12th house, okay? So with Chiron going through your 6th house with the North Node, you're not going to be feeling any opposition in that 12th house unless you have planets in Libra in your 12th house. Then Chiron will affect them, okay? So with that being said, Aries is about, again, I'll repeat, identity, boundaries, being selfish. You know, some of my stronger Aries that I know that don't have like strong Libra in their chart, like me, like I said, my South Node and my Ascendant are in Libra, but say in Aries with no Libra in their chart, they can be, I hang out with them, it's just all about them, you know. And for me, I'm an Aries, so it's like, okay, oh, you want to go over there? Okay, I'll go with you. Oh, okay, I don't feel like going over there with you anymore, I'm gonna go that way, and they go, and there's no hard feelings, where other signs will definitely, especially feminine signs, give you a guilt trip, like, what, you said you were coming with me and now you're going that way? Where an Aries isn't gonna give a, especially one without any Libra in their chart, they're not gonna care. They're gonna be like, okay, we went this far together, see you later, have fun, you want to go that way, I don't, you know, it's to each their own, you know, self-imposed will. So with that being said, Chiron might be illuminating this in all of you in a certain way, like you want to go your own way, but in whatever area Aries is in your chart, whatever house, this is going to be the theme. But you feel that pain of loneliness because maybe most of you are not Aries suns and you're not akin to just going your own way. And the North Node is expansion. It's that your destiny, your life path, and especially for anybody who's around the age 18, 36, 48, or wait, no, every 18 years. So my math just went out the window right there, but 36 plus 18, if you're around that age, you're definitely going to be feeling like you're really, because you're having your North Node return and it's conjunct Chiron right now, you're feeling the pain, even if you're in Aries, because Chiron is that wound that can't be healed. So it's like if you are an Aries or have a strong Aries placement your whole life and you do get lonely, being that pioneer, being out on the leading edge, not being able to wait on people even when you want to, that's going to be amplified. Like whatever pain you have in being alone is going to be amplified at this time. But for a lot of you, it's healing too. Chiron is healing. So I know for me, just all this Libra Aries, I actually feel like I'm finally starting to wrap my head around autonomy for real in practice. Me versus the others, asserting boundaries as a Libra rising and Venus and Pisces. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't even know the word until I was divorcing in my mid-20s. And I went through therapy, and they said boundaries, and even then I didn't really know how to assert them until the last few years. So the thing is that, and working with clients and just learning things, but yeah, it's definitely about being selfish, and unapologetically selfish. And for those of you who are not Aries and don't have your Venus there or whatever, it's look at the house. If you have your birth time, that is the area that you need to be selfish in right now without apology. So if it's your sixth house of work, and you've been too afraid to ask for a promotion because you're afraid they might boot you out on your own, but yet you've always wanted to start your own business, go up there boldly like an Aries and ask for a promotion. If you've been working there 10 years and haven't gotten one, it's your sixth house of work, and that's a humble house. Your battle is identity and boldness versus humility, that sixth house of Virgo, where but it's in Aries for you. Or if it's your 10th house of career, it's time to, maybe you didn't, your friend's going for the promotion, and they really deserve it. But that you deserve it too. You don't have to be in direct competition with your friend, but if your 10th house is in Aries, you need to go apply for that promotion too, okay? Because 10th house is Capricorn's traditional house, corporate climber. If it's the second house, it's again money. Second, sixth, and 10th is all about career and money and work. So if your Aries is in that house and you've got Chiron and the North Node transiting through there right now, you need to get bold in work. You need to get bold in asking for more money and asking for what you're worth, and not being ashamed of, do I deserve it, or does my boss like me? I have a Venus and Aries client, and we get along famously. I love reading for her. She's just this breath of fresh air every time. And I don't even know what house it's in off the top of my head or anything. But she's often, comes to me like, how's my boss feel about me? And her boss freaking loves her, but still it's like, just knowing that, she is strong and bold in her work. She doesn't want to be trampling on anyone's toes, especially her superiors, And so self-awareness is another big evolved light side of Aries energy. Maybe if your Chiron is in Aries and if you're 50 years old right now, and you're like on the precipice of your midlife crisis with that Saturn Jupiter return that I think comes around age 54 or something like that. I have to do the math again. You might be literally, oh man, I just lost my train of thought with that midlife thing. But at 50 years old, if you're having your Chiron return in Aries right now, you might need, you might be an empty nester and you've been waiting around because the kids need you or something, but you really wanted to travel the world, and you're having your Chiron return at 50 years old in your ninth house of travel or higher education. I was talking to my friend about this the other day. They just left a very long-term job, and their father was saying, you can't switch trades now. You've been in this trade forever. And I go, well, it's ironic because my father used to tell me, you can do anything at any age. People can go start law school at 50 years old. So if you're having your Chiron return and you're 50, look at what house that's in. Ninth house, again, that's where I was going, is higher education. And ninth house is law. You might want to go back and be a lawyer. It's not too late to start. You might want to travel the world. Ninth house is foreign travels. If it's in your water houses, traditionally that would be the fourth, 8th, and 12th, and say your 4th, 8th, or 12th is in Aries, and you are having this Chiron North Node conjunction in Aries there, you might want to look at emotional wounds. The 4th house is home, private life. So you might have been living in squalor, or you might have been living in a really nice house, but it's sterile and it's too big. It's time to reevaluate. You might have got your dream house with 10 bedrooms, but you don't use any of them, and nobody comes over. So you're just isolated. That might be the time to go, is this emotionally fitting for me, this 4th house? Chiron's going to highlight that for you. Like, okay, I'm isolated and in pain here, but I have my dream home. And my 4th house, this isn't me, but if your 4th house is in Aries, you built that empire, you bought that 10-bedroom house, you know what I mean? But emotionally, maybe it's not fulfilling because that's a water house. So maybe it's time to look at downsizing because you'd be emotionally happier and in a more cozy environment, you know. And selfishly, that's that Chiron moon. Like selfishly, you got the empire, you got the house, you against all odds, you trailblazed like an Aries. But now, when you're sitting in that fourth house, you're emotionally not happy and content. So that's the dichotomy of life sometimes, right? Or maybe you bought that 10-bedroom house because you had 10 kids and they're all gone now and it's time to reevaluate. Eighth house, sex, death, and taxes. You know, this is just the example that came to me, but say your eighth house is in Aries. You might have, you might be staying married for financial reasons, because eighth house isn't just inheritance, this is other people's money. So, and it could be, in for the more noble of you, it could be because your partner depends on you financially. Well, now as an Aries eighth house, it might be the time to say, you know what, this partner's draining, maybe they're not draining you. Maybe you can afford to take care of that partner, but maybe it's your own ability, which is, you know, in your own sense of duty, which can be kind of an Aries emperor thing. You know, Aries is the father, the emperor, that you've been taking care of this spouse, or maybe it's a spouse and stepchildren because you have the financial resources. It's no drain on you, but maybe they're not grateful. Maybe they're not loving. So maybe it's time to cut the cord there and be selfish and not worry about the others and their finances. Or maybe you're financially dependent on other people's resources. And now's the time, you know, that learned helplessness that I know I can fall into, where you need these others. Maybe you don't. Maybe you really could go out there and forge your own ground. So, you know, different areas. None of you are commenting or telling me your Aries placements or anything, but it's that wound of where are you neglecting yourself for the sake of others is highlighted with the South Node, North Node being there. Okay. North Node is expansion. So when you're having your own North Node return, again, for those of you at an interval of 18, 36 and 36 plus 18, you're having your North Node return in Aries with Chiron on this, depending on what degree it's in. So for you, it's painful to reach out to your destiny. So kind of going back to me really quick, which I know you guys pop in and out because you get sick of hearing it. Now my battery's dying, so I can't stay on too much longer with this. But again, I'm going to pop back on to show you guys the divinetimingdatabase.org walkthrough in a few minutes after I charge up the phone. That's done downloading now. I know for me right now, my North Node, or my sun, is 21 degrees Aries. So this is all happening within 4 degrees of my sun. I believe my North Node's actually closer to 0 degrees Aries. Or no. I know, okay, my Jupiter's 9 degrees. I think my North Node is between them. I should have looked. You know, I was going to print out this nice birth chart of mine so I'd have it handy. But I have so many Aries placements off the top of my head. But basically, a good friend of mine that I came back into contact with from childhood has his moon at 18 degrees Aries. My sun's at 21. We have sun moon conjunction within 3 degrees. And he's very attracted to April energies, but I have the tightest sun conjunction to his moon of anyone that he's been close to that we've spoken about off the top of our heads. And with that being said, I was like, you know, I might have actually literally come into your life at this time as the sun, because the sun is life force positivity, because his moon at 18 degrees Aries is being exactly conjunct this Chiron North Node conjunction, and he is going through some major changes in his life, okay? And I was like, you know, his moon's in Aries and my moon's in Virgo, so are we meant to be together for life? Probably not. But have we become very close recently? Yes, because he is going through all these major changes, and I am, because the North Node is literally transiting our sun and moon at this time, and it brought us together, you know. I've been able to see, you know, I've always had close Aries friends, moon friends, and I mentioned this to you guys before, more so than the sun even, because my 7th house is Aries. So Aries moons really like to be in my 7th house with my sun, I think. And so it's just interesting that this moon, that's the tightest orb to my sun, probably of any of the Aries moons that I can think of off the top of my head, were connecting this past few months when the North Node and Chiron are coming conjunct our sun and moon. So it's sort of like we're like survival buddies. I had posted this meme about like apocalypse buddies. It's like we're holding on for dear life, and it's like he's infusing emotion into my life that I hadn't felt from men for a while. You know, men had been so cold and indifferent, and I'm infusing positivity when he's, you know, things are looking the most negative for him. So it's like, we have great aspects, but does it mean, that's the thing. And this is why, where I was kind of rambling on in the beginning, and I'll wrap it up here, is this is why you shouldn't date around according to astrology, is because right now, say I'm connecting with this person because we're going through this transit and helping each other through these changes. That doesn't necessarily mean, you know, we're meant to be, but if some other person comes in, they could have really malefic aspects. Like say I meet someone tomorrow and I have really good surface aspects, like Venus conjunct Mars, which isn't even surface. It's the best romance aspect. But say everything else is really malefic and terrible. I'm supposed to be doing this karmic work with this soulmate that I knew from teenagehood, because we're having this major transit, and I get caught up with this Venus-Mars conjunction, which feels like the one, but there's all these other crappy things that I'm not going to find out for a few years, and that delays this work, and now I've got to deal with it, you know, at age 50 when I have my Chiron return. So this is why you really shouldn't be tying your energies to a bunch of different people, you know, and it kind of goes to like sex magic and things too. It definitely ties in, and I've been making more and more connections this way. This is why Divine Timing Database is so vital. And you guys think I'm just like plugging something and I'm pushing my agenda. No, like I'm literally helping my clients with all of this and watching us struggle through it. And life is only so long, so we could expedite this process of muddling through all these things, maybe skipping over some of these karmic relationships, but instead of skipping over this karmic work for someone who looks good on the surface, or you have one really strong aspect with, and then walking into something even worse, when you could have gone through this little karmic thing and then gone into your destiny, or opened the door for who's really for you waiting in the wings, you know, or mended and healed the wounds, Chiron, to have that and evolve into that. Because I told a client this the other day too, you know, I don't want to get too much into her. She was really cool. She was a brand new client. We were talking about this guy she just met and how they hit it off, and how it was so weird that she looks just like his ex and he looks just like her ex. And she was like, would it be weird to look into my ex-fiance? And I was like, no, actually be really curious, because it might be really similar energy and we can verify it in the astrology. Well, then we got clicked off, you know, but I hope she comes back, because I really want to do that. So sometimes, you know, you feel like you're dating the same person, like law of attraction. Esther Hicks will say, you keep dating the same person over and over again. I know for me, just being really intuitive and clairvoyant, like the synchronicities will be insane on how they're similar. Like they like the same band, or they say this. I was like, it was something with, gosh, I was thinking, there was just so many weird things. I went to a concert to this one like underground rapper. He's like, he's Snoop Dogg's cousin. So most people have never even heard of him, with this one guy like a couple years ago. And then I reconnect with this friend, and that's who his favorite rapper is. So it's like nobody else has really heard of this, you know, only a certain age group and stuff. So it's like, anyways, so the energies evolve, and you might circle back to someone you knew before, and actually one of them had said to me, like, it'll be who you least expect. So it's like, if this person was the one, it's who I least expect. But it's like sometimes you have to move forward to be able to appreciate what's backwards. And these energies, you know, it's really a spiral. Now I'm just going on this whole metaphysical tangent, and my phone's going to die, and it will cut off the last few minutes of this video. So I'm just going to kind of wrap it up here, but I'll probably be making a video more in depth about that if you guys want, just about the energetic cords, you know. And you guys know this stuff when it comes to energy, and it comes to like sex magic, and it comes to those kinds of things, or even, you know, just health type things. But it really does tie into the astrology. You can see how this is happening. So it's like, that's why I created the Divine Timing Database, is so that we can skip through a lot of this. Because if you're meant to have a karmic thing, like let's say this, say my dream partner, Divine Timing, right, is going to enter the database next month, and I entered yesterday. Well, when he enters next month, he's going to want to connect with me, because I'm going to pop up as a match. So even if I don't go back in and log in for a month, it's going to notify me, hey, you got a match. Okay, they want to talk to you. And I might have needed another 2 weeks before that person entered to get through this karmic thing. So I would be prepared for that energy. So that's why it's divine timing, right? Exciting stuff. I do feel like I could ramble on more about the North Node in Chiron in Aries. And I know know, usually when I make these videos, then the next day and the next day, I'm like, oh, I should have said this, and oh, I didn't think of that. So definitely comment if you guys think of anything I said, or you're like, oh, that made me, you know, if you have a question, because I can elaborate. So I want to kind of workshop this through this week. And you know, you guys know I try to get on Monday through Friday, but it might be like Thursday that I pop back on, or Friday, but I will probably pop back on this week with additional thoughts on the North Node and Chiron. But it's definitely been in my mind. We just went into Pisces season, so I'll probably touch on that a little too. But yeah, I just don't want the phone to die and cut off the rest of the video. So if it's just by seeing it like a walkthrough without actually having to, you know, see this new auto match feature, I'm going to be walking through it in about an hour or so. So just stay tuned to the channel. I'll kind of give you guys like a 15 minutes heads up. I'll schedule it. I'll try to, but I'm going to be doing it on the computer, which I haven't used in a while. That way I can screen share with you guys. So it will be like the desktop version, not how it looks on your phone, but it's all the same thing. So definitely, if you want to see the inner workings of divinetimingdatabase.org, once you submit and you get in there, see how this auto match feature works, it's really, really cool. So I'm really excited about it. So I had to get on, and you know, no matter what video we do, I'm going to be babbling about it. So also, we got a new affiliate. I don't know if you're a subscriber on YouTube. I know a lot of the submissions to the database so far have been from YouTube viewers and from my clients, but they're definitely in there. There are matches in there waiting for you. So I don't know what you guys are waiting for. Like, why are you still dating that jerk that hasn't called you back when you could be in the Divine Timing database and spreading the word about it? You know, the more you spread the word about it, it might be your sister's cousin's friend's uncle nephew that submits, and that's your dream partner, you know. So get the word out, you guys. Come on. I mean, I built this thing from scratch. There's no other matchmaking. And also, co-star on the cusps of your moons and suns, it's not accurate. This is down to the minute accurate, way more accurate calculations than co-star, guaranteed, you know. It's provable. And yeah, if you can prove that my you know, that these calculations are not more accurate than CoStar, I'll give you your $15 back from submitting to the database. But that's not going to happen. So I hope that, you know, you all are having a wonderful Pisces season, wrapping everything up. You know, try to stay out of your feels too much. If you get a little emotional, just listen to some good music, okay? All right, I'm sending you all lots of love, blessings, and light as always. Thank you.